Dry, windy, fire. Again, this time near Lyons. A wildfire in southern Colorado burned within feet of Bent's old fort. We are curious whether the adobe could have held it off. As the state cracks down on illegally made ponds, firefighters would like a word about how useful they are. A global challenge, local solutions, how Denver's spending money on small projects to address climate change. And if all it's going to take to keep a senior in their home is some accessibility modifications, well then, let's do it. We don't just watch, take action, because this is next. The view from the sky over Larimer County tonight shows firefighters saving home after home from a quick-moving wildfire. This is in the Blue Mountain area, about 6 miles north of Lyons. To give you a look, the flames have been within 20 or 30 feet of some houses at times. The fires burnt at least 10 acres, mostly grass and brush, some trees. There have been evacuations of homes in both Larimer and right over into Boulder County. We're seeing a big-time response up there. You got Lyons Fire, Left Hand Fire, Hygiene, Pinewood, Boulder Fire, and the Boulder County Wildland Group, all up there protecting houses. And they've done a great job so far because we haven't seen a single loss. There are mandatory evacuations on for Vision Way, Dakota Ridge Road, Chimney Hollow Road, Moss Rock Drive, and south and east of County Road 37E. Lifebridge Church is currently being used as an evacuation center. You're going to see updates scrolling on the bottom of the screen throughout next. If there is especially pertinent information, we will bring it to you here, 9news.com, and on all of our social media channels. Bent's Fort is back open after a wildfire came within that historic site within just feet of it this week. The adobe fort there is obviously made of fire-resistant adobe, but it turns out that some of the structural changes made in the last 50 years actually make it more susceptible to fire. So there are two fires that are not yet completely mopped up in southern Colorado right now, and they're both near the border of Bent and Otero counties. The Fort Lyon River fire is burning east of Los Animas. It's burned 2 homes and nearly 3,000 acres. It's about half contained. The Bent's Fort fire is in Otero County. It's burned more than 1,600 acres and is 73% contained. Firefighters kept the old fort itself from burning and protected some wagons that are there at the historic site. Park staff estimate that 85% of the park's property burned. The fort reopened to visitors today, while the rest of the park is closed. The original fort was built in 1833. It was made out of adobe, dried mud brick that's fire resistant. Fire resistant, of course, does not mean fireproof, and you may know the first fort burned to the ground in 1849. When it was last rebuilt in 1976, they used adobe, but also wood. So the current fort is actually more vulnerable to fire than the original. The state is currently cracking down on illegal ponds, places where water has been diverted without water rights. It's technically stealing from downstream rights holders. Now firefighters are saying, hold on a second, the ponds may be illegal, but they're also helpful to have to fight fires. Our Steve Steger explores a possible solution.
Firefighters for Platte Canyon Fire already have to go pretty far for the water they need to fight fire.
We have to truck all the water in with us. We don't have hydrant systems. So what the ponds mean to us is that's our water source.
Fire Chief Ben Mulligan is talking about the ponds scattered throughout the fire district.
We probably use our water sites, I would say on average, a monthly basis.
A great resource that began disappearing a few years ago.
And I started driving by the local ponds and I saw, whoa, what's going on here? Why are they all drained?
The answer has a lot to do with the law that governs water in Colorado. The state's water engineer recently began cracking down on ponds, ordering some of them to be drained. The argument, ponds like this steal water from downstream users who technically have a right to it.
You're preventing that water from getting to the senior water rights holders or to the stream itself, where it would be available for other people to appropriate to beneficial use.
Dick Brown is a lobbyist representing several different water districts in Colorado.
Water, as you know, is a scarce resource. And in the arid West, it is even more scarce than other places.
State lawmakers are considering a bill that would allow county commissioners to ask the state water engineer to protect ponds used specifically for firefighting resources. No one argues with that, because how can you argue against fire protection? Though one of Brown's clients, the Upper Arkansas Water Conservation District, has one concern.
It is inconsistent with the way we have applied water law under a variety of Supreme Court decisions for, more than a century.
They hope for an amendment to encourage counties to buy other water supplies that backfill the system, adding a different source of water back to make up for what the fire ponds take out, allowing firefighters to keep the ponds they so desperately need.
We support the effort in saving these ponds just because we already have limited resources. And we already have.
For Next, I'm Steve Stager.
This fire pond bill does have bipartisan support. It's already passed the state Senate. It's now making its way through the state House. The man accused of murdering 10 people at the King Soopers in Boulder last year is still not mentally fit for trial, despite a recent report that he soon could be competent. Status hearing was held today for Ahmad Alyssa. He's the man accused of carrying out the attack at the Table Mesa King Soopers last year. His case has been on hold since December, when a judge said he wasn't competent to stand trial. Doctors said he couldn't understand what was going on. He's been held at the State Mental Health Hospital in Pueblo ever since, though the hospital recently said there's a substantial likelihood he would be able to stand trial. Appears they're not there yet. DaVita and its former CEO have been acquitted on all charges that they conspired with competitors not to hire each other's top employees. Kent Theory and DaVita, the kidney care company, were accused of violating the Sherman Act by trying to prevent people from moving up and moving on to other companies. Our partners at Colorado Politics report today that a jury this afternoon acquitted them on all charges. One person, one city can't stop climate change, though Denver's trying to do what it can through a network of changes, spending millions of tax dollars on small to mid-sized projects to make the city more environmentally friendly. Here's Anusha Roy.
To track the changes coming to Denver, it helps to go neighborhood by neighborhood. We start in Elyria, Swansea.
It's e-bikes, so there's no emissions.
Where the Northeast Transportation Connections Group has added a third spot for their e-bike library through a city grant.
Helping people get out of those single occupant vehicles and just riding around and maybe cutting out 1 or 2 trips a day is definitely helping with the environment.
That's significant because of the zip code.
One of the most polluted in the nation.
A mile away, the National Western Center is planning for renewable energy by installing solar panels.
Between 5 and 10% of our power will come from this system.
Joining the Northeast Early College High School in the Montbello neighborhood that'll build a carport with solar panels.
We are focused on environmental justice, and this is an area in which might not have a lot of access to renewables.
All of this is a part of a citywide program that includes energy donations to low-income DPS families to lower their electric bills by as much as 30%.
The energy is going essentially back to the grid, so to Xcel's grid, and then it will credit families on their utility bills.
So about 40% of the power will go to city buildings, and the rest of the power is going to go to residents of the Denver Housing Authority and also to low-income families who come to our subscription program through Denver Public Schools.
The city has been working on going green for years, but really picked up momentum when Denver voters okayed a sales tax increase in 2020, setting aside $40 million a year for the cause.
2 years later, we have 37 staff people, and our budget is over $45 million.
In the last year, the city goals have become bigger.
And then 100% reduction in emissions by 2040.
And how much it will cost to reach those goals is big too.
By 2030, I think their calculation was somewhere around $3 billion. But what I'd like to say, though, and I don't want people to panic over a big number like that.
Right, so the city knows, right? Big dollar, big goals, but also said Denver has to get started somewhere addressing this issue. And then it's going to be really important to be smart about the way they're spending the money that they do have right now. A really critical part of this is going to be paying attention to neighborhoods, right? We know minority communities have been disproportionately impacted by climate change. So the city is saying that if they can work out solutions and programs that are working in these neighborhoods, that's going to resonate across all of Denver.
The goal is ambitious. There's a lot of cities around the world that are talking about zero emissions. As far as I know, Copenhagen, Denmark is the only one that's on track. They're on track to do this like by 2025, but they started from a far more sustainable place and model than we did.
Right, and like we were just talking about, right, the momentum in Denver really took off in the last couple of years. And yeah, that timeline, it's going to be 2030, 2040 for Denver. And one of the things that they are really relying on right now is that there is a new rule in Denver that our big buildings, the one that are over 25,000 square feet, are going to have to cut down their emissions. They say that's going to have a really big impact. What they don't know is what the federal rules are going to be. That's important because we have a lot of trucks going through our highways. City doesn't have direct control over that. So they just have to wait and watch to see what the feds do.
Makes sense. Anusha, thank you. A high school that doesn't have to follow all the usual rules wants to bring back its principal, the guy convicted of domestic violence. The EPA says Colorado's Front Range has an unacceptable pollution problem. The next viewer wonders how DIA figures into that. And it's Friday. Tell me something good.
My good news is chickadees have moved into our neighborhood.
Welcoming transplants to Colorado. Part of your good news. Next. Devlin Junior Senior High is getting ready to rehire its old principal, who originally left after a domestic violence conviction. Tony Edwards was arrested in 2016, convicted in 2017. He was sentenced to 2 years probation. His former school has now named him sole finalist to return to the job. Devlin is a Jeffco options school. It means that Devlin gets to use its own hiring process and not that of the district. Jeffco does get one non-voting member on the search committee. That person has already weighed in, saying bringing Edwards back is a bad idea. It'll be divisive and disruptive. Search committee is going to hold focus groups next week for students and families.
Winds do back on off as we head over the course of the next few hours. That is good news with that wildfire just outside of lines in mind. But those winds still going to be a little gusty at times, 15 to 20 miles an hour as we head through the early part of tonight. By tomorrow morning, those winds will be a lot lighter, but then they'll pick back up again along the eastern plains as we head through the day tomorrow, out ahead of our next storm system. So for your day tomorrow, for your Saturday, temperatures mid-60s for us, mostly cloudy for us here in Denver, especially during the afternoon. That's when those winds increase out ahead of our next storm system. That'll bring some rain and snow to the mountains starting tomorrow evening, somewhere around 8 o'clock or so tomorrow night. Unfortunately, stays mostly dry and warm as we head over the course of the next 7 days.
Tonight's next question comes to us from Sandy, curious whether the EPA's plan to get tougher on Front Range air pollution would impact operations at Denver International Airport. That is an excellent question, Sandy. DIA is already on the list of what are considered major pollution source facilities in Colorado. So even if the EPA's proposal to change our status to severe happens, that would not necessarily impact DIA. The airport's got large-scale boilers that heat its large buildings. They've got backup generators, which are a big source of emissions. And state regulators also track other stationary sources of pollution on that massive airport property, like car rental companies and gas stations and airline support operations. What state regulators don't track, and this might have been what you were getting at in your question, is pollution from airplanes themselves. That's left to the federal government, the FAA. Send us your questions by air or land or sea, or actually email. Email is always best. Record it on video or audio if you would, and send it to next@9news.com, because if you are wondering, I guarantee you somebody else is too. This week, Next viewers are helping older Coloradans and Coloradans with disabilities be able to stay in their homes by paying for necessary home modifications and repairs. We're talking about wheelchair ramps and accessible showers and needed safety improvements. I got a note earlier this week from Jason, who runs the program at the nonprofit Brothers Redevelopment. He dropped me a note to say that what you are doing is going to save people. That was his words. Jason wrote, "The people we assist have no other options. Many times they're basically camping in their homes." He said that your word of thanks donations will allow more than a few people, after who knows how many months or years, he said, to exhale. So let's help some more Coloradans exhale, to know that they can stay safely in the home they love, that they're not going to be forced out. Scan that QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to join me and a bunch of Next viewers who have raised together almost $30,000 to pay for home modifications and repairs that will keep our neighbors where they want to be.
Our good news is that we are enjoying time with friends.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have to say we are or were?
We're not picky. We just want to go out on an up note each Friday, because that is next. It's Friday, Good Friday. So it was a prayer walk at Wanaka Lake in Lafayette, where our Tom Cole strolled up with his camera and his favorite Friday question. What's your good news?
Oh my goodness. Well, thank God we have a beautiful day. It's Good Friday. We have our annual Good Friday prayer walk.
Wait, I'm talking into the mic. What are the words?
My good news is that I get to see my best friend today, and I haven't seen her in 6 months, so it's pretty rough.
We are the 3 o'clock wake-up call. Every day at 3 o'clock, we send out a message encouraging people to give thanks to God.
My good news is chickadees have moved into our neighborhood.
Our good news is that we get to enjoy time with friends. Okay. Or that we are enjoying time with friends. Our good news is that we are enjoying time with friends. Yes. Okay.
My good news is we are pregnant. The baby will be born September 12th is the due date. But yeah, that's the good news that we have.
I know you've been thinking about it, so you've got a plan. So go ahead, look into that camera and say, my good news is, go ahead.
Okay.
Our
Good news is we're spending time with friends.
My father came out of surgery earlier than planned, so that was good news.
Yeah.
I wonder if we should do it one at a time.
We know that practicing gratitude is good for our minds, our hearts, our bodies, our souls. We just need a reminder to give thanks, and that lifts our spirits. It also unites people together. It creates community, it creates connection, it creates friendships.
My good news is that Centaurus women's soccer is 7-0 for the year so far, and second in 4A.
And you're the goalie.
And I'm the goalie.
My good news would be that senior year is almost over, so time for college.
My good news is today is Good Friday, and I am so thankful that we can celebrate our faith and thank Jesus who died on the cross for all of us.
Good Friday edition of Your Good News. $25 million for a 4-bedroom house. It does have 12 bathrooms, though. Great for a family on the go. Then your feedback next. The most expensive house in the Denver metro area now belongs to an R&B superstar. She just moved here to the area with her husband, who I am told plays sports ball for a living. Denver Business Journal reports that Sierra just purchased a home in Cherry Hills Village. $25 million for 5 acres. 12 bathrooms and an indoor pool. Place only has 4 bedrooms, though, and Sierra and her husband Russell, or Russ as his friends call him, they have 3 kids. So I'm thinking, you know, they're going to need to do some renovations if they want to have a guest room or 2 or 5. $25 million is a record for a single-family home in the Denver area. Previous record was the $15.7 million sale of Mike Shanahan's 13-bedroom home in the same neighborhood as Sierra and her husband, whose name escapes me at the moment. I don't follow sports, but it reminded me of the tall gentleman from the Nationwide commercials, because he bought this 16,000 square foot home in Cherry Hills for a steal of a deal in 2012, $4.5 million. His name was Manning. His name was Manning something. Feedback from Greg tonight, who says, why don't you report on how all these fires are getting started? Well, Greg, we don't think that today was lightning, but we know that the state is tinder dry, so the tiniest bit of human stupidity can have catastrophic consequences. It's going to be dry and windy this weekend, too. So let's all make good choices, and I'll see you here next time.